Welcome to Research Talk. In our previous video, we talked about descriptive coding strategy in qualitative data analysis. In this video, I'm going to talk about another exciting method that we use in qualitative coding strategy. And as you could see on the board, it is called In Vivo Coding. So in vivo coding, what we do in this strategy is we use the participant's own words. We use the phrase or the words the participant is using as a code when we are coding the data. So when I'm looking at the excerpt, I'm reading the excerpt, and whatever catches my eyes, whatever phrase, words this person is using that highlights what is being talked about, I use those words as a code. So in vivo coding, we do not use our own uh, codes, meaning that it is not a researcher-driven coding process. It is a participant-driven coding process. So instead of using a word, a code of my own creation as a researcher, I use the words, phrases, which are used by the participant as code in this strategy. And that is why in vivo coding is also known as natural coding. It is also known as indigenous coding. Some researchers also use a term called amic coding. Some other names for the same is verbatim coding. So these are a few other names for the same, but in vivo coding is the most popular name, so we will go with this name. But again, as I said, natural coding means that we are not creating a new code, but we are using the language, the words, the phrases, the metaphors, the imagery that the research participant is using, and we are using them as a code. So what are some strengths of using this approach of coding? One of the key strengths of this method of doing coding is we highlight the voice of our research participants. And as a researcher, it's very important, particularly if I'm using a framework which is focused on advocating, empowering the research participants. For instance, if I'm using transformative framework, if I'm using critical theory lens, if I'm using feminist theory, in these approaches, obviously one of the goals of the researcher is to help give voice to these marginalized communities. So when we use the words of our participant as code in the analytic process, we are giving voice to these marginalized people. So this is a very important, in my opinion, a very important feature of doing in vivo coding. However, there are some limitations of this method as well. If we, not a limitation in the sense like it's good for a initial level of coding of the transcript, or first cycle of coding of the transcript. However, if we over dependent on this method, it will lead to lack of deeper level of understanding of the phenomenon, understanding the social processes or factors which might be implicated in the phenomenon. So this is a very good strategy, and many researchers, qualitative researchers, use that. They use the words, phrases, metaphors, imagery being used by the participant as code, and it brings participant more closer to the research process. In fact, it makes it more sort of a collaborative research, meaning that the researcher and the participants, they are collaborating together rather than a researcher is an outsider and researcher is involved in generating this knowledge. The idea in collaborative research is your research participant is actively involved. He, she is part of the knowledge generation. So both the parties are very, very involved. So when you do in vivo coding, you are using the participant words, phrases in a way you are giving them representation. You are telling them that what they are sharing is very important, and you are using their words as an analytical tool to understand and explore their experiences. So that's briefly about in vivo coding. Now I want to show you demonstrate you how to do that. So I'm going to open my computer, and then we will have a transcript that I will code using this approach and show you how it looks like in practice. All right, so you could see my screen here, my laptop, and here is a transcript about from a research that explored teachers' experiences with project-based learning in a middle school classroom. So you could see the interviewer is I, participant is P, and this is a brief portion from the transcript, and I will use this to demonstrate how we do in vivo coding. So let's begin. So first thing first, I want to create some margins on the right side because I am a right-hand person. But if somebody likes doing coding on the left side, they can do the coding on the left side. So create some margins on the left side to write your codes. So let's do that first. So I select the whole transcript, and then I go to layout and then margins, and then I hit custom margins here, and I can set. So you see on the right, it says 1 inch, and I'll make it like 2.5 inch. That will make my job easier to code on the right side. So now you could see it created a space on the right side, and I can do my coding on the right margins of this page. So let me add a text box here to write my quotes on the right side of the margins. All right, so the first paragraph, it is interviewer. So if you remember, we do not code what an interviewer is saying or what, because interviewer is basically asking questions. And the research is not about what an interviewer thinks or asks. Research is about understanding participants' perceptions, experiences. So we do not code, when we code any transcript, we do not code the questions being asked by the interviewer. So I will leave it not code anything for the first paragraph. Now, the second, you see the participant is saying, thanks for having me. Well, adopting project-based learning or learning by doing, as I prefer to call it, has honestly been a game changer. It's opened up a new dimensions in how we approach learning and teaching. It's been a voyage of discovery, really, for both my students and me. So when you are reading and when you look at this excerpt, and I'm doing, remember, in vivo coding. So what we do in vivo coding, we use some of the keywords or phrases that the participant is using to highlight that the what we think is important to code. So the first thing which comes to my mind is learning by doing. So this is going to be my first code here, learning by doing. And then he also talks about it's been a voyage of discovery. This is another thing which captures my eyes here, that so I'm going to use this phrase as well as part of my coding, voyage of discovery. I'm also thinking about doing this phrase, a game changer. So he's describing project-based learning, a game changer. So I generated three codes from this excerpt: learning by doing, a game changer, a voyage of discovery. And these quotes are obviously in the context of his experience about project-based learning. Make sense? Now let's move to the next. And obviously, as I said previously, we do not code interviewers' response. We only code participants' response. So we'll leave that. So let's move to the next excerpt where this person respond to this question, which is, could you share a specific project that encapsulate this transformative experience? And he gave this example. Certainly, the community garden project immediately comes to mind. It was more than just a gardening project. It involved teamwork with a local environmental group, research into sustainable practices, and hands-on learning about ecosystems. It epitomized, forgive me, the hands-on, minds-on approach for me. What do you think? What stuck to you? What phrase you think we could code in here? For me, what captures my attention is teamwork. So here is involved teamwork that they are doing with this agency. And also, what really captures what he is trying to communicate is hands-on, minds-on, hands-on, minds-on. So we got two quotes that captures the experience, the essence of what is being shared by the participants here. Let's keep reading further. Now the interviewer is saying, the enthusiasm for that project must have been palpable. How did you how did your students react to this shift toward more hands-on learning? And in response to this question, the participant is sharing their reaction was nothing short of amazing. It was this palpable excitement, a kind of eagerness I hadn't seen before. One of them even compared it to unlocking a new level in a game, which uh, I thought perfectly captured their essence of achievement and engagement. There is this energy, this buzz in the classroom now. It's hard to describe. So he's talking about uh, this this hands-on, this project-based learning and how it has brought so many positive changes in his classroom. So, what quotes comes to your mind? What really hits me this word excitement, um, eagerness here, and finally this phrase he used, unlocking a new level in a game. So I'm going to use these three words. I think that really captures how his experience related to using project-based learning and how it influenced the classroom dynamics. So I'm going to excitement, eagerness, and then unlocking a new level in a game. Let's move to the next excerpt. So now the interviewer is asking, engaging students in such a dynamic way is impressive, but I imagine it wasn't without its challenges. Could you talk about some obstacles you faced? So now the participant is talking about sharing his experience, his challenges related to using project-based learning in classroom. And he says, absolutely, navigating the chaos is how I would sum it up. Project-based learning is inherently messy and unpredictable. Aligning it with traditional schedules and lesson plans was challenging, and managing everyone's times effectively, well, let's just say it was a learning curve, but as one student insightfully noted, it's organized chaos, and that's where the magic happens. That really resonated with me and helped me frame our approach. So the first thing that captures my attention here is navigating the chaos. What else? And later he used a term called, he sort of defined it further, this chaos. It says it is an organized chaos. So I'm going to use this one too, organized chaos, as my code here. Sorry. Right, let's keep reading and let me add another text box here to code for the next. What is the problem here? Okay, that's good now. So again, it is the first excerpt is interviewers. Now the interviewer is actually he is with these challenges, what do you think has been the most significant impact of PBL on your student learning? So now talking about the impact of PBL on students. And the participant is responding, the depth of their engagement in learning has been remarkable. They have become many experts in various subjects, acquiring a toolbox of critical skills along the way. But beyond the academic gains, they have learned resilience to embrace the struggle. As we say, watching them develop this grit and problem solving ability has been one of the most rewarding aspects for me. So I let me so one thing that helps grab my attention here is mini experts. And resilience. Another thing that grabs my attention is embrace the struggle. So resilience, comma, embrace the struggle. Grit and problem solving ability is also something which sort of highlight the impact of uh, PBL. Grit and problem solving ability. So I think with this demonstration, now you are getting a sense of how this coding method looks like. So as I said previously, in this in vivo coding approach, we use participants' own phrases and words, which highlights their experience as codes. So you see in all these coding, I'm using the words, phrases being used by participants. So that's how this approach of coding, first cycle of coding, looks like. If you have any questions, you can put in comments and I'll answer your questions. I hope this video where I explained what is in vivo coding, and this brief demonstration helped you to get a sense of how to do in vivo coding. I'll see you again in another video on another approach to data analysis and qualitative research. Till then, have a good day. Take care. See you again.